So this is not a long recipe to make. Even quicker, use cooked chicken if you're getting one of those rotisserie chickens from the store.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yep, that would work. And you only really need about half of one of those rotisserie chickens.
Welcome back to Great Taste of Manitoba. It's Manitoba Chicken tonight, and we are braising chicken. And of course, this is all one pan stuff. All these recipes one pan, and we're going to end up with some very, very beautiful tender chicken when everything is all said and done. So recipe number 2, 1 pan chicken Dijon. This is kind of the critical element here. But let's start with, well, we've already kind of, again, started searing our chicken drumsticks. And this recipe is particularly good with drumsticks?
It is delicious with drumsticks. You can also use skin-on bone-in chicken thighs if you prefer. My family loves drumsticks. They're a very economical cut, and it works beautifully for this one-pan chicken Dijon.
And so is there a benefit, because I know with our last recipe there was also bone-in, and so is there a benefit to having those particular cuts with the bone still in for the braising?
Yeah, so often a liquid is used for braising, and the bone imparts a lot of flavor into that liquid or that sauce, and we're gonna make a delicious creamy sauce. We use some chicken broth, and when that simmers, a lot of the flavor from the bone comes right into that sauce and broth.
Okay, so I know that there's a couple of different steps to this one, so,
There is.
so should we get started with adding what we need to add?
Okay, so we've got our drumsticks in the pan, about 3 pounds of drumsticks. We're just braising them in a little bit of canola oil here. And then the very first step is about a teaspoon of salt and pepper. So half a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of pepper, just sprinkle it over the drumsticks for me.
You know what, I'm gonna just use
that works perfectly.
It's just even distribution, just like the heat in the cast iron frying
Yeah,
pan.
and we add the broth and the sauce, so it all just gets mixed in there, so that's great.
Okay, now onions next?
Yeah, so you brown these for about 5 minutes, and then the next step is we add 1 small chopped onion.
Okay. 1 small chopped onion.
Yepers.
We're going for garlic next.
Yeah, so we just let this brown for a couple of minutes.
Okay, so you would actually give it a couple of minutes in between each thing. Okay.
Yeah, so first with the onion, and then the garlic is next. So there's 4 cloves of chopped garlic, and we could add those because we're just speeding things up a tiny bit here.
Well, this is not like real time, right? Like
So the garlic only cooks for about a minute because you don't want to burn garlic. So the onion will cook first, then we add the garlic just like you did.
Okay.
And then we have 1.5 cups of chicken stock or broth.
Sort of a, as you mentioned earlier, critical element of braising. Can't really do it without the liquid.
Cannot do it without the liquid. And then we add a teaspoon of coriander. It adds a beautiful flavor. And we have half a teaspoon of basil.
Basil. Okay, and I guess you can use fresh or the dried.
Yeah, you can use dried, you can use fresh. So if you're using fresh, it would be a whole teaspoon. And then you just bring this up to a boil. And this is where you put the lid on, and this lets the chicken cook. So we would cook this for about 20 minutes on the stovetop with the lid on.
Okay, but we can do a lot of magical things on television. We can't speed up time, unfortunately. So what we're going to do is we're going to pretend that this has been 20 minutes.
Right.
And then we're going to go on to the next step because, as we mentioned before, it's a 2-step process. So here we go.
Exactly.
20 minutes has
so
come and
20
gone.
minutes.
Oh my goodness, how lovely.
Here we go. And it is already getting boiling. So I'm just going to remove these drumsticks and put them in a pan. And our next step is going to be making this delicious Dijon sauce.
So I'm guessing that obviously some of that liquid would have sort of dissipated at this point. So you won't actually have this much liquid in the pan when you're making the sauce, right? But there'll be some of it left, right? Yeah.
Correct. And you know, with this sauce, I often double the sauce because I love serving this with rice or with crusty bread or even pasta. And my whole family loves the sauce so much that I usually double it up. In the recipe, we use half a cup of sour cream, and I'm going to get you to whisk that for me, Des.
I'd be delighted. And I love it already. It's got sour, and Dijon mustard too.
And full fat sour cream, so it gives a nice creamy flavor, and a couple tablespoons of our Dijon mustard.
Oh, it already
smells good, doesn't it?
For me.
And then there's 2 teaspoons of fresh tarragon. Or you could use 1 teaspoon of dry.
Okay. And one thing I thought was very exciting about this recipe is capers. I love capers.
Yeah, they're like little tiny olives. They are just bursting with flavor. They add a little bit of salty savoriness to the sauce. And yeah, they're a very unique ingredient that you can get at all grocery stores now.
Eat them out of the jar. Love the capers.
Delicious.
Okay.
So when this does come up to a boil, you simmer it for about 5 minutes. And of course, there would be less stock, like you said, after we cook the chicken for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And then you just place the chicken back in the pan, and you just coat it with this sauce. And like I said, this is delicious with rice or with pasta or crusty bread. And it'll definitely become one of your favorites.
Bring on the crusty bread. Okay, so that's kind of, and sorry, one more time. Now, once it's back in the pan with the sauce, that cooks for how long? Or
probably just about 5 minutes. You just coat
to kind
the
of
chicken.
get it coated.
Right,
Okay.
because really the cooking has happened
already.
with the broth
Sure.
and with the lid on the pan.
20, and that's all it was, about 20 minutes.
Yeah, because you browned the chicken first for maybe about 5 or 10 minutes, 5 per side. Then you add that stock, you put the lid on, you let it simmer, and you're right, there's a lot less broth, so this sauce thickens up very nicely once you add the sour cream and the Dijon. And
It's going.
I know you'll love this recipe.
Okay, and yes, and so if we move over,
Right.
and here it is, sort of the finished product, and it looks, well, it looks amazing. I can see what you're saying about the sauce. I haven't tasted it yet, but I can smell it, and it's just quite awesome. So there you go, one pan chicken Dijon, one pan. When we come back, Tuscan chicken with vegetables here on Great Tastes of Manitoba. Don't go away.